Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Raw. It is actually it's Friday afternoon here in the United States. If you're coming in from overseas, it is your Saturday. You are in my future trip, and welcome to the studio this afternoon. We got Mike Micene coming in from the Midwest, coming in from the state of Michigan, and we have Dominick Melillo coming in from the state of New York, the town of Commack, Long Island, where the three of us grew up. You know, earlier today I was out in the outback here, out in the trail by myself, deep into the bush, as they say, down under. And I was thinking about us, the three of us, and realized, it's like we were the kids from the old neighborhood. And here we are, fast forward all these years later, and we have, in fact, reconnected. And here you are, Mike. You showed up today. You're wearing a T-shirt. I want you. Can you show us what it says in full? I love it. Can you kind of move up a
Yeah,
little
I
bit?
think so. Yeah.
Commack, New York. It's where my story begins. I love that. That was, I believe, that was a gift that your wife got for you at some point in time.
Yeah, when we first met, man, I don't know where, she's one of those searchers, man. I don't look, but she was a searcher and bought me some pretty meaningful stuff. Inexpensive, but really cool. There was another one she got me that was Long Island, and then it was like dot 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 across the United States, like an airplane flight, and then Michigan. You know what I mean? And then it had said, "This is where our story begins." So we have that. It's actually a shirt I have, but it's also a painting, kind of like a caricature painting, and we hang that up for the kids to see too. So they always ask us questions about that.
Yeah. It's been some time since the three of us gotten together. It feels like it's been a couple of weeks, and boy, a lot's changed. But then again, I'm not sure how much has changed. Most of us are still in shelter in place and have hopefully adapted to a new way of living, at least for this moment. Not forever, but just for this moment. I'd like to take a few minutes here as we wait for those joining us in the audience in our community, watching us live on Facebook and our YouTube channel. I'd like to ask both of you to kind of just do a quick check-in. How have you been, Mike, since we got together? Came on in the green room, and I could sense that your energy was real low. And I asked you if everything was okay, and you had shared, in fact, that you guys just got some bad news. I'd like to invite you to kind of give us a little bit of an update. What's going on in your home?
So my wife, Janelle, is a secretary at the local elementary school. And I was invited about 6 years ago to start a program called Watchdogs. And BUG is an acronym, stands for Dads of Great Students. And so I was really gung-ho to do it. It's sponsored by the National Center for Fatherhood. And it probably covers 50,000 elementary schools in the country nowadays. And it started off because of a school shooting back in 1996 in Atlanta, Georgia, and a bunch of dads decided to do something to make the children feel more protected and feel more safe in the school. And so they, brought this program about, and now it's as big and large as it is. And so a gentleman that I had invited to be one of my top dog leaders at the elementary school's wife just succumbed to the COVID virus. So we just found out literally before I came on. They're a great husband and wife. They're in their 60s. They volunteer. They do a whole bunch of stuff for the school. I mean, they are at every event volunteering and giving their time, which is basically the epitome of what the Watchdog program is all about. It's mostly male figures where they're trying to just help kids feel more secure in the school and give them another reference point as far as a male role model in their life. A lot of kids in our elementary school in particular could be single parent, or some of them even being raised by their grandparents. So it was a tough thing to deal with. But, again, like I said earlier, I choose to just think there's a reason why we're in the situation we're in right now. And, it's our our mindset and it's our process to just figure out a way to understand why we're here, why we're in this situation right now in our life. I mean, we were obviously born to be in this situation right now, and you know, what positive things can we bring out of this? Like, for instance, the program I just spoke to you about, the Watchdog program. It happened in 1996. From that terrible incident in an elementary school in Atlanta, Georgia, we now have an incredible organization that a lot of men in elementary schools. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at. My family, thank God, is still doing well, and we're all healthy and figuring out ways to just, move on and stay positive in this situation. So that's where I'm at.
I gave you the opportunity for us to postpone the show today. I said, if you're not up to it, we can push it until next week. And you immediately said, no, let's do the show. I'm just curious for you, what's behind that for you? Why that choice rather than taking time just to be in a moment? What's this about for you?
Well, again, for me, and we talked about this earlier as well, death is a part of life. And I don't believe it's something that we should fear. That's my personal opinion. I think, we're our fears come from the unknown, right? And so, that's kind of where my head's at. But, life is all about moving forward, right? We lose our dear friends, our dear parents, and other people in our lives. But it's about what we do while we're here, and how we can add to this life while we're here, and what we can leave after we leave here. So for me, it's sad. I will be sad for a while, and I'll reach out and probably make meals and stuff for the husband. He's a good guy, and he was sick as well, but he's apparently getting better. But it's just moving on. Being an ex-athlete and being an athlete my whole life, it's all about overcoming these kind of incidences in your life so that you can be a positive force in the future. So that's where I'm at.
Dominic.
Yes.
I just like to take a moment here. And for those of you that may be catching us for the first time, the three of us, Mike, Dominic, and myself, we met in grade school. We were in the same elementary school, some refer to it, and middle school, same middle school, and then we went on to the same high school together. Dominic and Mike, their dads, I didn't know this until we got together just about a month or so ago. But your dads were very close friends when you guys were growing up. When we were growing up, three of us together, Dominic's house and my house, we only had one house separating our homes together. And so when we were younger, especially in grade school, I've shared this before. There were many times that Dominic and I would be playing in the street, and his, probably in his property, maybe even at the park. I think it was Burwinkle Park around the corner.
Yep.
I don't know how I got back that name right now, but many times Dominic's mom would say, "Hey, you want to join us for dinner?" And I'd sit there with your family, which is a whole lot larger than my family growing up, and got to have some delicious Italian food, which of course became my favorite comfort food in my lifetime. Mike and I, we met obviously in grade school as well. Mike was definitely always more of the athletics type, and I tended to that was not one of my areas of strength. But what I always liked about Mike was you always seemed to have this inner strength about you, and this self-confidence that was just beautiful. I understand it a whole lot better today than I did then. But what I really love about the three of us getting together is that I hadn't been in touch with either of you for decades. And it really wasn't, Mike and I hadn't reconnected until I think COVID was we were just at the beginning stages. We were not under shelter in place. And we met because you had just shut down your gym, Gotham Premier Personal Training. And you started to go live and do Facebook Lives for your clients. And I just happened to see you in a feed of mine on social media. And I'm looking at you, and I didn't recognize your name, but I'm looking at your face and I'm going, wow, I know this face. How do I know this guy? It's like, wow. And then it hit me. I was like, and I look at your name and go, Mike, is this the Mike Micene from grade school? And then so I went deeper into it. I looked at your profile and boom, there it was. Went Commack, New York is where you grew up. I was like, oh my God, this is the same. You haven't changed a bit. And of course, you look in the mirror and you don't agree with that statement. You see someone much older, hopefully much wiser. But I got to tell you, Mike, you don't look a day older than the day you graduated high school. So it's really a pleasure for me to spend time with the two of you guys, and knowing, not knowing that it would take me to be age 58 to reconnect. The last time I had seen either one of you, I was probably 17 or 18. That's when I graduated high school. Went on to college, and I never looked back. I left Long Island as soon as I could, and for me that felt right. And here we are. All these years later, 40 years later, we are able to get together and have these real men, real talk, real conversations, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's just a gift. That one of the gifts that has come out of this moment of darkness, perhaps.
I agree with that moment. The gifts that come out of the moment of darkness comment there. We could look at anything in the world, anything, and find the good in it, and we could find the bad in it, and that goes for anything. And some people might disagree with that, but if their focus is on the bad, then that's where they're going to focus, and they'll never take their eyes up to see the good in things. Just thinking about the good of what's happening now. I mean, the fact that people are reconnecting with their families, reconnecting with themselves, just taking some time to breathe. We're called human beings, not human doings, but we spend a lot of time doing and not being. So we've had this opportunity to be, spend time just thinking about ourselves and worrying about what we'd like and what we want, spending time with our families, just thinking of new ways to approach things. The whole video conferencing boom, I think Zoom has probably tripled their sales in just 2 months. The air quality is much better. You can actually breathe in LA from what I've heard. So there's so many good things that have happened because of this. And there are, of course, some bad things. I had a friend die last week, very, good man. I love the guy, but, he was in his 80s. He did have a compromised immune system. He had cancer. He was battling some issues there. So there's the second person, close to me that's passed since this began. But like Mike said, death is inevitable. None of us get out alive in this what we call life. But I think to concentrate on the being part as opposed to the doing, which is what we've all been doing. We wake up, we go to work, we come home, we take care of the kids, we cook, clean. All of these things that we do keep us from being. So remember that we're human beings and not human doings. So we've had the opportunity to be, and I think that's one of the great things that's come of this.
Thank you for sharing that, Dominick. I'd like to ask you, Mike, you were an owner of a fitness gym, and you've been affected directly, as millions have in the US. How has your life changed now that at least for this moment, your gym is closed? How are you embracing this moment to see the light in it rather than the darkness? And if you are living in the darkness, that's okay too. That's what we're here to do, is to talk about it and really share what's on our minds and what our experience is right now.
For me, we spoke about this in another time. It's hard when you first realize that, your income is going to stop, and that's the kind of business I run. It's a tough thing to swallow, but again, it's going to put a strain on my family for sure. We're going to do our best to get through it. But for me, it just seemed like the right thing to do at the time, and that's why we reconnected, because you saw me out there. I knew I wanted to do something positive for others, and again, I keep touching on my faith, but that's one of the things we're taught, right? In my faith is that, we serve others. We want to be servant leaders. And so, I've noticed that obviously my clients were going to need help. And as it was coming, and before it even unfolded, before we actually stopped meeting, I told them, try to get a dumbbell, try to get a couple of exercise bands, and I will send you video workouts every day. You need them. And it won't take a lot of equipment. It's a lot of body weight stuff. I even made a video on how to make weights out of containers or milk cartons or 5-gallon water pails, whatever, but I really, truly, and I've gotten, text messages and posts from people saying, you could sell them virtually online. And, did you ever think about, doing, Zoom workouts or doing all that stuff? And I said, yeah, I did, but I don't know, they say always listen to your gut, and your gut's connected to your brain. Dominick will tell you that. But for me, it was my gut feeling. My gut feeling was, do not charge people. Do not try to make money off of this. Yes, I need money. Yes, we are struggling. But in my heart, it just didn't feel like the right thing to do. I feel like, I can't be the only person out there who doesn't have a job right now. So what do all those people do who don't have income but still want to work out, who probably went to a gym or, are even thinking now, because they're home all the time, that they want to start a great habit in their life that they continue to do for the rest of their life. So for me, it was really just about helping others. I know some people don't understand that, and I understand that too. But for me, it was really just reaching out and trying to help the people who are in need, those who don't have the affordability to buy, time with a trainer. And so that's where I'm at. I thought it would be the right thing to do. Like I said, I had people, sending me messages and texts, you got to take care of your family too. And I said, yeah, I am taking care of my family. But most importantly, I think it's important now more than ever to help others. And this is my way of helping others in this time of, pandemic or whatever we want to call it.
Mike, I really want to take a moment here to just acknowledge and honor how you personally are embracing this moment and the position that you've taken as it relates to showing up for your clients. I am curious though, is that your routine has been totally disrupted, as it has for most, if not all of us, except for those that are first responders or working in pharmacies and grocery stores and essential businesses. However, how is Mike Micene showing up for Mike Micene? How are you able to, or have you been able to create a new sense of normalcy for yourself, to do some self-care? What does that look like for you?
For me, it's about keeping my routine, and more importantly, trying to revitalize the discipline you need in your mind to overcome these kind of situations. Discipline meaning, in a very small sense, you have to wash your hands every day. You have to have good hygiene. That stuff we should have been doing anyway. And so discipline is what's going to keep us safe, what's going to keep my family safe. Discipline is also going to keep me working out and staying healthy and strong at an almost 60-year-old man. So the routine of waking up early as well as I used to, I was working. I still get up early in the morning. I have a moment, I have a quiet moment of prayer time early in the morning before anybody gets up. And then I start my routine, having my greens drink in the morning, and then going right into the gym and making the videos for others. So it's early enough so that people that are still working, maybe at home, want to get a workout in before they start their day at home. And then get my own workout in. Once that's all done, it's usually late morning by then. And then I kind of try again to revitalize some of my faithful stuff, as well as just myself, some things about how people are able to deal with this and how I can help other people deal with this. So there's a lot of connection in community as far as school goes, as far as my parish church go. And so for me, really, it's not so much as doing anything new to get through this, but to really, really find the discipline to stay structured and to stay on my routine, so that it looks the same too for my children as well. You know what I mean? I don't want them to see daddy just laying around and, you know, being all whimsical and not, you know, wanting to move around or get around. I want them to see that, you know, we have control over what we have control over, and that's ourselves. Right? So stay disciplined. I keep showing them, you know, the right way to eat and to eat healthy and to exercise. So we do some things together as well. We've had a week of snow almost every day here. Nothing that's, you know, accumulating, but, you know, for this time of year, it's a little shocking to see. But we ride bikes usually right around noon, because they get a little, we call it a recess break, because they're in school from 9 to 3, something like that. So try to keep that structure. So that's their like recess time, and then, you know, they go back to school for a little later in the day, and then we'll take a walk as a family. So it's really just about keeping that routine, and then just trying to help them, you know, kill some of that energy so that they can sleep at night, because they've been struggling a little bit, but not too badly. And I guess the new part for me is, like I mentioned before, just a little more present in my wife's life, in my son and daughter's life, just to let them know I'm here and that I'm listening to them. And if they need more attention, you know, I have no excuse but to do that. You know, don't ever be too busy. I kind of live that way anyway. I realize that, you know, when children need attention, it's really important to them. And even though it may seem annoying or not so important to us, I think it's really important to show them that time. And so that might be the new thing. I do it already, but I really am trying to, you know, step it up quite a bit so that they know daddy's here and everything's going to be cool.
Beautiful. Now, I believe your children are 8 and 10, if I got that right. Close?
No, a little older. You know, the boy's 10. Well, she's going to be 13 in July, man. So
okay.
Daddy's getting a little nervous.
Why? Do you remember what you were like?
Because, you know, she's going to be a woman soon, you know. She's going to be a woman soon. She hasn't shown me, you know, any notice of boys just yet, as far as I can tell. But, you know, I'm sure it's coming, man. She's in middle school, and I think that's when we all started feeling like that and thinking about that. Maybe boys more than girls, I hope, but who knows?
Have faith, Mike. She'll do the right thing.
Yeah, this is an interesting comment here, Mike, that you share. See, I've got 3 sons, and I could tell you that I would remind my boys when they were growing up quite often, like, you have no idea how different your experience would have been if you had a sister growing up. I know that sounds inappropriate, but that is the truth. I could tell you, as a dad, I would have shown up way differently if I had a daughter at that dinner table than having the 3 boys. I mean, my kids grew up watching a lot of the Austin Powell movies. That wouldn't have been going on if there was a girl in the home.
You definitely do raise girls different than boys, you know, in your mindset.
Yes. Yeah. You know, the tough thing for me is there's only 2. So I get a lot of that, you know, this ain't fair thing. You know what I mean? And I grew up with 5. So I told them, you know, there was nothing fair about any of that, man. Whoever needed it got it. And that's just the way it worked out. And that's the way you dealt with it. Dominick, you know, you're a 4. So yeah, you know, when you get 2, there's a little controversy as far as who's getting what and how much of each of them are getting. You know, you try to be even Stevens, but it's never going to be. And yes, they need different. Boys need different than girls, for sure, man. I've learned that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because Dominick, I believe you have a daughter as well.
I have 3 daughters, 2 boys.
Oh my! How did the 2 of you navigate through these moments of being a dad, raising a girl, knowing that she's about to turn 13, as Mike just shared? How do you navigate that and stay healthy in your own mind and be a present parent, knowing that the clock's moving. You can't hold her back. She's going to go through what she's got to go through as a teenager.
Well, you know, you got to hope that you instilled some morals and values that you know, they would take with them when they go outside the house. You know, it's kind of interesting how some people say that the parents don't raise children anymore. It's the it's their peers, it's the people that are around them more often, which is their friends and schoolmates and teachers. But I don't necessarily go for that. I think there's a lot that a parent can instill in a child if they choose to. But I try to keep an honest and open relationship with all my children, whether they accept what I say, But I think, and I see now, especially with my older children, that some of the things that didn't seem to be sinking in at the time have sunk in, and some of the things that I was teaching them way back when are some of the things that they actually are doing now, especially when some of the words that come out are the same, or some of the actions are similar. And so you'd be surprised what actually does get through to them. But teenage years, they're tough. I think it was a little tougher with the girls than the boys, but they're tough no matter what. And rightly so. I mean, we had the same situation when we were that age. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We thought we did. We thought we knew everything, but of course, as we got older, we now know that we didn't know a damn thing. So, hopefully, we instilled some good values, some guidance. But you know what? They're on their own most of the time. We can talk all we want, but they're on their own. They have to make their own choices. And you just got to love them through it all and accept the choices that they make, good, bad, or not.
Let me ask you this, Dominick, with what you know today, with the newfound wisdom that you have been studying, researching, and embracing in your own life as you have gone through this aging process, what do you think you would say or do differently with your daughters if you could bring them back in time with what you know today, and if they were now, let's say, 12 turning 13, anything that you would say or do differently with what you know today?
That's kind of a tough question, because it doesn't matter what I would say or do differently. It really comes down to what they're going to accept at the time. And I don't think that me changing is going to do any good for them, because it's not going to, they haven't gone through any of those changes. They haven't matured. They haven't grown with any wisdom. And I think that any suggestion I make would fall in the same, limited understanding, or sometimes deaf ears, or sometimes it would sink in. So no matter what I would say, listen, I speak to a lot of different people who have different upbringings, who for some reason or other, had a problem with one or both parents on occasions. But, when you look at the parents and you say, well, yeah, but they're nice people, what kind of problems do you think you were having? I mean, myself, I had, confrontations with mom and dad, from time to time. It doesn't mean that it wasn't a loving environment. Doesn't mean that I didn't love them. It just means that, people get together. They don't always get along, or I might agree with something and they might disagree, and same goes for our children. I had disagreements with my children, and, sometimes, if they didn't like my answer, they went to their mother and hoping for a better one. But I do think that, having said that, if mom and dad are on two different pages, that could do more damage to the children than you making a wrong choice or a bad decision or bad suggestion.
Thanks for sharing that, Dominick. Mike, I want to ask you the same question, just a little bit of a different spin, because your daughter is about to turn 13. What have you learned through your own journey of exploration, experiences, adventures, and hopefully today some wisdom that you didn't have when you were 25 years old? You said you're closer to 60 than you ever were before. What do you think are some of the healthy things that you could teach and mentor your almost 13-year-old daughter today that perhaps you wouldn't have known to say 20 years ago?
Okay, another hard question, because I'm actually in the trenches right now. But
exactly.
You know what? I think like Dominick said, for sure, I want to just say that, husband and wife have to be, on a united front, right? We can't show two different heads, two different animals. But for me, it's more about making sure that my daughter knows I love her no matter what, and that we are going to make decisions that aren't going to be so good sometimes, and sometimes they are, but that I love them dearly either way. But for me, it's more about, somebody told me a while ago that we don't really have kids for a long time. Like they're put on loan to us, basically, right? And so it's our job, while they're on loan to us, to instill things that we think are important to them, so that when they get old enough to make their own choices, hopefully we did the right thing, like Dominick said. So, I think I'm more aware of that now more than ever, right? Being the youngest of 5 in an Italian family, I was definitely the rascal of the family, no doubt about it. And, I was definitely trying my parents in many different ways, quite a bit, and that's something I have to live with. I got to apologize to my dad, before I kind of touched on it with my mom before she passed. But, I think honesty, understanding what love really means and feels like, respect for a person, whether it be male or female. That's about, really want to make my be any certain way, The one thing I'm very a much younger is, there's only one of me, right? And God created me to be an individual and to be me. And I don't want to make either my, you know what I mean? So you need to let them grow. You need to let them move in their own path, and just be as supportive as you can. And, in some of the more detailed or touchy situations, I might refer to the wife on certain things, but I really make it a point every night when we stay up and I speak to both of them, that there's nothing they could do that's going to make me not love them, just so that we have that because I think it's kind of scary when you hear the situations where, a young person might do something terrible to themselves, and then you find out, that to their parents, it's very fearful kind of thought in my mind. And so I really try to reiterate that every night. Hearing me today, but hopefully I get in a situation that Daddy is always going to be there, and always be there with no judgment, just to be there so that they know I love them and support them.
Thank you for sharing that, Mike. Just so you're aware, your audio has kind of been coming in and out. I'm not sure what or if you can do on your end. It just may be what it is. But in between the breakups, I think what I heard. Well, Dominick, what did you hear Mike say?
I think, and I agree that, the most important thing is to let your children know that no matter what they do, you'll always love them. You'll always be there for them. You may not like what they always do. You may need to, reprimand or whatever it is, but you will always love them, care for them. And I think that's a very important message.
Beautiful. As I'm sitting here listening to the two of you, there's so many of my own thoughts that are coming through as far as with what I know today that I didn't know when I was raising my children. I've got 3 sons. They're all out of the house. They're in the late 20s now. I'd say one of the things I share with them even today. We don't live in the same state.
Jay, how did you deal with your sons?
Well, how I dealt with them, I was doing the best that I could. I didn't realize that I was unconsciously living as an adult in my own home most of my life. It's not how I would show up today. And how I do show up today for my sons is when they call me and we have the conversations, usually through video chat most of the time now. And they ask me for my opinion on, and they ask me for my opinion.
There, guys.
What's that? Sounds like Mike's having a difficult time. Mike, I'm going to ask you to maybe drop out of the studio and come back in and see if we have greater success with you. I'm going to ask you if you could leave the studio and maybe come back in, see if it improves.
Are you on your cellular internet, or does he have Wi-Fi?
I just took him out. I'll send him a note and invite him to come back in. I heard the question that he did ask. Hold on one second. Just send him a quick note. How I'd answer that, Mike's question to me was, I know that most of my adult life, I was living in a world of surviving. I was not thriving. And it wasn't until I got out of the fast lane back in 2015, Dominick, that I really started to have what some refer to as like an awakening. Right. My awakening to seeing things through a different set of lenses, and it wasn't because I upgraded. It was because I had to really examine my life and the choices I made and a dream that I was chasing, and understanding that although it appeared on the outside that I had achieved great success, I was lacking on the inside. No matter what I had achieved financially, physically, even relationally, inside I was not happy. And so began what I refer to as my own healing journey. And how that translates today differently with my children is that I think the greatest words that I can share with my children is for them to learn how to trust their intuition, to even understand what that means. To break it down, intuition is basically when, as you mentioned earlier in this conversation, to learn how to trust your gut. Your gut is your intuition. Your gut is always the first answer that comes to mind in a test when we were in school. And then we go to self-doubt. And many of the times we would erase that answer and put in the second answer that we think is the right answer. And inevitably, probably 8 out of 10 times, that second answer was in fact not the correct answer, but the first answer was, which came from the gut. The difference between the gut and the second answer is the second answer comes from our headspace, comes from our thoughts. And the gut comes from a much deeper place from within us that some refer to as the heart space or the soul space. There's where the gut is. Wisdom does not lie, does not live in our head space. Wisdom lives within us at the heart space. There's where all our answers lie. So when we think we're going to think our way to solutions, when we stop the thinking, we turn it off, we go quiet, the answers come from within, they bubble up. And so for me, the greatest lesson that I could teach my children, having gone through it, is to pay less attention to my thoughts, quiet them down long enough to where when the answer comes from within, there's just this knowing. I just know it's right. I know it's right for me. And when I can have faith in that and not go to fear, and I can trust that it is the truth and it's best for me, then I'm comfortable with it. And I don't have to make a decision in conflict, inner conflict. And that is kind of my guiding light today and how I choose to navigate through this this thing called life. And so instead of me giving my children, telling them what I think they ought to do, I basically invite them to, I ask them, well, what do you think? What's your gut telling you? Because that's the language they understand, you know. I'm starting to kind of talk a little bit about intuition and wisdom and all that. But it's a process. I'm not like just hitting them over the head with it, because they're going to just back off from that, because they're going to be like, well, what's happened to dad? This isn't the dad that used to talk to me when I was 10 years old or 15. This, like, who is this guy that says he's my dad? Well, who this guy is a guy who had to nearly die to wake up.
Yep. You know, I tried to instill it in my children, you know, even at an early age, that basically what you said. And I think one way to and of course they didn't get it because they were into the, you know, friends and family, not so much family, but friends and peers, and how they would, you know, view what their actions were. And I think what would be important for anybody is to, if you're going to take a look at yourself from an outside perspective, and, you know, you kind of stand 12 feet away and watch yourself, if you're able to do this, you know, whether mentally or but if you go outside yourself and you watch yourself, and you kind of judge yourself by yourself, and then instead of going outside yourself and judging yourself on what you think others are judging you by. So if you're judging yourself based on your own rules, your own standards, you're going to be a lot more authentic. If you judge yourself based on what you believe others may think of you or how others may react to you, and you'll never, ever be a happy person. So taking yourself out of the present and just kind of bringing yourself on the outside and watching what you're doing, you know, ask yourself, am I doing this as an authentic version of me, or am I doing this as what I think others are believing of who I am? And if it's the latter, well, you might want to take another look at yourself. You know, so don't ever judge yourself by what you think others think of you. Be yourself, judge yourself, use that gut, like you said, and live your life. So many times, you know, we're living our lives based on what others have, you know, created for us. And I'm not just talking about peers, I'm talking about society in general. Our societies works a certain way. We live on this earth, and we are able to navigate earth based on a system of governance, a system of community, a system of medical and legal, and all of these different systems. And if you really look at them, all of the major systems on this planet do not work. The educational system is not really about learning. It's about creating people, students, that adhere to a certain standard or level of what our leaders think we should be doing. The legal system is not about justice. If it was about justice, everyone would be ruled by the same set of laws, and we'd all have the same opportunities and the same day in court, so to speak. You know, but we find that those with more money get better treatment in the legal system. The government is not really about taking care of everybody and making sure everyone has the ability to live a free and happy life. The healthcare system is not about healing. It's about disease more than healing. So we live in a disease care world. So what are we concentrating with these systems, these major systems? We concentrate on disease. We concentrate on injustice. We concentrate on not learning. So all of the systems on this planet are broken. Look at our economy. Our economy is not providing for all. If we had an economy based on good deeds, like Mike was talking about, the volunteering, if we had an economy based on good deeds, Mike would be very wealthy. He wouldn't worry about money. But we don't have a system based on that. Our systems are broken. We need to fix them. And I think this whole COVID-19, shelter in place is giving people pause in their lives to actually say, you know what? there are some things wrong with this world. There are things that are wrong with my life. Why am I, living my life the way I am? And I think that's what we, is one of the benefits of this. And I think we need to rise up and wake up and make some changes in this world. And it's not just the United States, it's all over the world. We are ruled by what I would call psychopathy. I mean, think about those major systems that I just spoke about. They don't work. That's crazy. Why do we want to live in a world where we're ruled by crazy?
Let me ask you this, Dominick. I appreciate all that you just shared, and we kind of transitioned into a whole nother realm of a conversation here. And I'm comfortable with it, but I'm really curious with what you just shared. How are you able to make a difference in your own life, in your own world, with these obstacles, these challenges that we all face being citizens in this country? By no means is this a political show. Is this a political platform? I like to avoid politics in my platform. However, this is less about politics and really more about just your awareness of some of the systems that are, let's say, not working at peak performance. As Mike Micene likes to, I'm sure, describe how he'd like to guide his own clients to peak performance in their own health and wellness, emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. How are you able to show up for yourself living in a society where you have awareness of parts of society and systems that are not performing at peak?
That's kind of a tough one, and I don't think I'm alone in my view of the world. I might, have said something radical to most people just now, but I've always I've always looked at the things in my life, and I remember even when we were in grade school, I would look at things, and I would not understand, others people's point of view on the same thing I was looking at, because I often see things that other people didn't see. And that's tough growing up when you're a little bit different than the rest of the world, so to speak, in your point of view. But I remember as a child on many things looking at what was going on around me and seeing things that didn't seem right. And then I've researched this for years, and just, if we look at how our society works, I remember, God, if you recall back in Circle Hill Elementary School, where we had the drills where we would go under our desks and put our hands behind our necks like this. And what did that really do? I mean, if there was going to be some type of bombing or attack like that, it would, this wasn't going to protect us. I hate to say it, guys, but I remember doing that. And I remember the teacher talking about, Cold War and Russia and how they use propaganda to mess with their or teach their citizens that our way of life is bad. Meanwhile, their way of life is bad. But isn't that propaganda on us? And I started, wondering about that. So while they're teaching us that those imperialistic Americans are ruining the world, we're teaching our kids, that the communist Russians are ruining the world. So what's the difference? And then you find out years later that there is no difference. And when you look at ads in newspapers or TV, and you find out these subliminal messages that they're putting in, that kind of stuff fascinated me. And I started looking into where else is this being used? Where are these, manipulative methods being used? And I find this all over the place. And so the question is, what is real? And in the past 10 years, I've really dove deep into a lot of things. And I find that most of our history, as it's been told, as we've been taught, is actually pretty false. So where is the truth in all this? That's that's what I've been concerned with. And you know, like I said, if our currency changed from dollars to love and good deeds and happiness, who would have more money? You know, where would that? How would this world change if we all were looking to help one another as opposed to trying to put one over on each other? You know, how would this world be if we all cared about one another?
Mike, thoughts, comments?
Yeah. Well, I think my mentality about that kind of stuff, like you know, I hear people say things about the president or about, you know, the government, stuff like that, and talk to my wife about or my children about is, do they specifically change your life right here or now in our four walls and in our home? You know, how do you let that kind of information, kind of ideology, change the way you live your life on a daily basis? Is it going to change the way you treat other people? Is it going to change the love that you have for your family and friends? Yes, there is some control, obviously, right, of what the government does and what our president does, but in the real scheme, in my opinion, right, and this is the way I choose to look at it, it doesn't really affect my life that much. Do you know what I mean? And so my thought process doesn't go into those kind of arenas, because for me, it's more about the simple things in life, right? We are alive, we are breathing, we are healthy. We have an opportunity to change how we live. So when Dominick said earlier, right, that a lot of times, and I've spoken to you before about this, that we kind of judge ourselves by other people. Well, I kind of like to believe that's what the world does, right? And that we, as human beings, and as me, a Catholic man, I am only judged by God, and He is only judging me for myself, right? So every day, if I try to do something to prove myself, to make myself a better person, to care about others more, to serve others more, to love my family more, to love my friends more, and to, most importantly, especially now more than ever, but when losing family members at a very young age, I've really, it's really touched me to make sure that I tell the people in my life how much I love them and care about them regularly, because you never really know how long we have, you know? And so I take this moment right now to tell you both that I love you both, and I'm glad that we reconnected. And like I think it's just important for me as my own man to just understand.
Well, we just lost him. Dominick?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate and respect what you have shared. And I also appreciate and respect what Mike just shared. Two different perspectives.
Hey, you know, I'm not saying that the world is a bad place to be, and I'm not disagreeing with Mike on the only, you know, when it all comes down to it, there's only one person in the world that we have to change if we think we need to change, and that is ourselves. But if we look at our lives and we find that all we've done was rush through life to gain, you know, material objects or money, which on many cases, if you think about money is virtual. We live there's more debt in the world than there is cash. There is money. So if that's true, then where is all the money? It's all in the form of debt. And that's just simple economics.
Yeah. I'm with you, Dominick. What I'd like to do is I'd like to just share my perspective on this right here, right now, because I have total respect, and I see there's not a right or a wrong in this conversation. I think what I heard Mike say, if I may paraphrase him, is that regardless of what's going on around outside of his home, he invites his family to look at, are we okay today? Are our needs being met? And keep more the focus on what they can do in this day for themselves, rather than being focused on the things that aren't, let's just necessarily working in peak performance in their lives. And where I want to go with this, if one of you guys have an audio device nearby that's got volume still up, if you could just check and make sure your volume's down. Here's my perspective on this topic, is that we all believe that we're living in a free society, and freedom is what we fight for as citizens in this country and in most countries that have the freedom to have freedom of speech. And that's the foundation of our country and of our Constitution. However, what I think we lack today is freedom of self-thought. We are living in a society that appears to be easily manipulated, depending on what channel you watch on TV and what newspaper you read, and and how far down a rabbit hole you dig and get into even conspiracy theories that are rampantly running the course right now. And what we are lacking, generally speaking, is free thought, freedom of thought. We are easily manipulated. And I question, and as I was in the depths of my own hike this morning in the outback here, it was just me and nature. There were no other people, but me and nature and wildlife. I was really thinking about how I'm paying attention to how people are showing up, people that I know for some time on social media, and how they are right now. A lot of people they're frightened, they're fearful, they're scared, they're have anxiety. They're going through all of the emotions that are bringing them to behaviors I have not witnessed before. And what I had to learn how to do for myself in order to not just survive, but learn how to thrive in my life, was how to become a free thinker. Meaning, I don't rely on other people's information to come up with my belief system and what I believe is right or wrong. I have learned how to trust my knowing, my own logic, which doesn't come from my thinking, but comes again from within, that gut space, and really invest my time to do my own vetting, do my own research, not to where I'm spending 6, 7, 8 hours a day reading, different perspectives, but just knowing where to seek information from, and know who my sources are, and then to create my own inner, let's say, peace with what I've read, and understand is it makes sense for me? Am I okay with it? Am I aligned with it? That's what free thinking is that I am not going to be easily swayed when I get massive messenger posts from people that I'll ask some of them, have you vetted this article? Do you even know where this came from? Who is this source? Why are you sending this out? And the majority of people are just pushing information, and they are believing it as becomes their truth, but they haven't done their own vetting. They're just receiving this information, and they're pushing it forward, and as though it's theirs, and they strongly then align with it, and they fight for it, and it may not even be the truth. And so for me, living in society today, is no different than it's been for the past almost 5 years. Is I jumped out of TV. I unplugged. I once had 7 TVs in my home. I have none today. I haven't watched TV in almost 5 years. Why? Because it wasn't serving me. I didn't want to get the download from other people's perspectives on right and wrong. I want to become a free thinker and learn how to think for myself, not think from my headspace, just from the knowing, from my heart space, and come to my own conclusions on how I want to take care of myself. What is good for me? The choices that I'm going to make in my life so I can not only survive and live, but how I can enjoy my life, have a life of fulfillment today and purpose, true purpose, which I was lacking. Before, I was just chasing a dream. I was just chasing the money line. How can I make more of it? How can I get more stuff? I had all of that stuff, and it didn't serve me. I wasn't fulfilled. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't give to anybody. I was always seeking for myself, my own needs. Very selfish on my part.
Yep. Service of self or service to others. We have to make that choice. And as far as what you were saying, if you only listen to things that agree with your point of view already, you're never going to be able to have that free thought, that free thinking. I always made it a habit of trying to get as much of a 360-degree view of anything, any detail, whether it be, I work in the technical field. I'd like to get multiple opinions on things, or like I said, a 360-degree view of anything, because how often, and this should happen at least all of us at once in our lives, right, where we are confronted with something, and you're thinking, well, why would it's so much easier if we did it this way? Why are they telling me to do it, one way when I know I could do it easily in another way? Which means there's other ways to view things. And you know what? Sometimes what makes sense for me may not make sense for either one of you or anyone else. So what? And Mike, you had a great point. You start within yourself and you project it out to those that you love, your family, and that's where it all begins. But people who live in their ego, who are looking for the next buck at any cost, at any price, whether it be sacrificing part of themselves or sacrificing someone else, is that the right way to live our lives? Or should we go out and start with our families, start with ourselves, and out to our families and out to our communities, and work that way, as opposed to trying to get people to make us happy or do for us? Let's start, doing for ourselves and then doing for others. We kind of need to turn some things around here. And Jay, you're a perfect example. When you were doing things in a way that you wanted to accumulate or get, it didn't bring you the happiness that you thought you were supposed to be getting, that the world told us we should be getting. It's until you stopped and said, you know what? I wasn't happy with that. So let me try the other way. And now you seem like a much happier, calmer, as you said, free thinking person, where the opinions of others don't really matter so much anymore. It's you'll listen to them, and there might be some valid information in everybody's opinion, but you're not just taking things for face value, and you've turned off the TV and the external sources, and you're thinking from within. You're feeling from within. And, things like that has happened to me. I mean, I had to lose it all to gain it all again, but, we have, we have this system of our own, many times we need to lose it all in order to get back what we need. So
exactly. I love that, Dominick. Yeah. If I may interject, what thought that comes to my mind right now is talk about free thinking. If we want to do like a vital check-in, just take our temperature to see how free thinking we are, I can't tell you how many times in the last number of years when I would share with someone, for example, that I did a 19-day water fast. 9 out of 10 people have all said the exact same words to me. And those words are, oh, there is no way I could ever do that.
Yep.
Now, they've never tried. They've got a very rigid belief system on what they are not capable of ever doing. Right there to me shows me that if you can, when we make a statement of any kind that, oh, I could never do that, whatever that is keeping us living in a very limited mindset, very limited ability to understand how powerful we are, what we are capable of doing, and therefore it really limits our ability to be a free thinker when we keep saying what we don't think we are capable of doing.
Yep.
We are capable of doing whatever it is we set our heart and minds to. Now, for me, it was a little easier because I had a motive. I had a drive. I wasn't doing it to lose weight. I was doing it to reverse some significant medical conditions, healing process, part of the healing. At no point did I ever think that I couldn't do it. The only question I had was, can I go to 30 days? And that was my initial intention. I jumped out at 19 days. I just started my 20th day, just shy of 3 weeks. And I jumped out because I was paying attention to how I was feeling. And I knew I was done. My body was telling me, you're done. It was time to jump out. I was getting into that unsafe territory for me. Now, it doesn't mean that I would have not had a good ending. I know doctors that have gone 60, 65-day water fasts and have come out and are still alive to tell the story. So free thinking is just that. It's not setting parameters and limitations around our own thoughts, our own experiences. We're open to consider all.
If one person can do it, then all of us can do it. And if you think about time, and we've recorded, through the Olympics and all these athletic events, you had a when they broke the 5-minute mile or 4-minute mile, like there was some milestones. When you had a 10-yard dash, what I don't even know what it is, 10 seconds or, but it didn't start off being that fast. It started off, high jumpers didn't start off at the highest level, and we started losing ground. Each year it ticks up a little bit, and the speeds get faster and faster each year. Which isn't, it's basically saying that, there is no limits to what we can do. We can always go faster. We can always be smarter. We can always, invent something new. So if we think that we're limited, we'll be limited. If we think that we're limitless, we were going to be limitless. And on many levels, we are limitless. And once we start realizing that, we will stop living in the pain, and we'll stop living in the misery. I know so many people who I've spoken to and try to change their diet and try to change their way of thinking. Well, I don't want to say try. I've spoke to them about helping them change what they do, but some of them will do it. Some of them would rather live in their misery because it's what they know, it's what they're comfortable with, and so they'd rather live in the pain than make the change. And that's their prerogative. But I would ask why.
Yeah, exactly. Mike, are you able to hear us? And are you frozen? Or are you with us? He's on a massive delay.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I'd like to do is let's put a pretty bow on a show and a conversation, and hopefully next week, if we come back in together, Mike will have better success. I had some significant challenges earlier this week on 3 broadcasts that I did. Right now, it's just is in some inconsistent bandwidth opportunities with as many people that are online. Perhaps that's what Mike's been challenged with today. Dominick, I'd like to invite you to share some closing thoughts based on our conversation today, and we'll go from there.
Well, I think I've mentioned this in previous talks. There's one person in the world that we need to change if we don't like what's going on around us. And so the only person we need to change is ourselves. If we don't like the political arena, still the only thing we need to change is ourselves, and change in the way that instead of just going with what your party or what your side is thinking, go and experience the opposite. And the reason why you're going to do that is because you want to get a different perspective on your own thoughts. Because either one, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to concrete, your current way of thinking, or it's going to give you pause to think a different way. Looking at one side of a coin is, you're always going to see the heads or the tail side. Well, you're never going to see the other perspective, the other side of that issue or that coin we're talking about here. So don't be so closed-minded in your thought pattern, and look at the world as a wonderful place. We live on a paradise planet. This is it. You can go outside and see the beauty no matter where you look. But there's so much ugly out there. And you got to ask yourself, what do you want to be a part of, the ugly or the beauty? That's my deal for the day.
Beautiful. Mike, are you with us? Can you, are we able to hear you? Test, do a studio sound check. No, it's got to be so frustrating. I don't know if Mike can hear us or not, but there's nothing more frustrating than wanting to be heard and knowing that in a moment you're limited. It's a great experience on acceptance. This is what we get to do today. There are things in our life in a moment that are uncomfortable. In this moment, there are lots of unknowns, and there's lots of information coming at us. And knowing that in a moment, there are things we have no control over. And those are the things that can we go to acceptance on? Can we accept the fact that for whatever reason today, the universe said that this conversation needed to go in a different direction, and one in which Mike was not going to be able to participate a whole lot. But he still showed up and he stayed with us, even though we can't hear him. I see you, Mike. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate the man that you are today. And I thank you for being in my life today. Even though right now your vocal chakra, your voice chakra, your throat chakra has been silenced, I know you're with us. And I want to thank the two of you for coming in today on Real Men, Real Talk Raw to have this deep dive conversation into what some refer to as the rabbit hole. And with that, I hope you guys stay healthy. May you and your families and friends stay healthy, stay well. Take some time for yourself to do some self-care and continue to focus on free thinking.
Okay, love you guys.
Okay.
All right. We got you, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time on Real Men, Real Talk Raw. Thank you.